Our judge. All right, well, good evening. Welcome. Oh, we got some feedback there.
Mute that.
Might be the volume or speaker. All right, I work right.
Okay, well, welcome to the Finance Committee meeting, January the 17th. Can we have roll call?
Mayor St. John.
Here.
Mrs. Cooper. Here. Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Grumney.
Here.
Mr. Neff.
Here.
Mr. Capel. Mrs. Dreyer. We're both absent right now.
Hey, so it looks like we have approval of, we met last on December the 20th and we have minutes looking for approval.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it. Roll call.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Grumney.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper. Yes. Mr. Neff.
Yes.
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
5 yeas.
All right. And I did get a text from Miss Dreyer. She is on her way. So I think I might turn it over to Dana. Looks like we have OpenGov here for a presentation. So maybe a little background would be great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just to provide a brief background, as you recall, at the last meeting in December, we had a presentation, well, not a presentation, but a packet information provided for OpenGov. And OpenGov is a software for permitting and licensing and also for development projects. And from the feedback after that, a presentation was requested, a demo. So that's why we have Mr. Steve Lane here to present. So I will turn the time over to him.
Well, thank you, Dana. Mayor St. John, council members, thank you very much. As Dana mentioned, my name is Steve Lane. I work with OpenGov, and I'm in one of the states that I work in is across the state of Ohio. So obviously Dana came to us about a little over a month, probably a month ago, as her and Daryl went down to visit the city of Hilliard, who's one of our local partners here in the greater Columbus area. Actually went on site with their community development department and actually saw our software, and then obviously we have contract engineers here at the city is familiar with OpenGov. Very common for third-party folks who work in different municipalities, whether it be engineers, inspectors, and certainly developers and contractors to use our platform. So what we've come here to do today, the past month and a half, work with Dana, work with Alex in the planning department, to learn, obviously, about the current state of the city of Sunbury, the growth that you guys are experiencing, the things that you're looking to obviously bring forward in this regard. And certainly the software is very vast. So what we're going to do here today is just provide you a quick, 15 to 20 minute high level overview, really focusing on the ability for the city to collect the past due payments, have people apply for their permits and applications online, and also show you not only the ease of use, but how the city can really control their entire process and workflow from that standpoint, to really set it up in the liking for the way the process works now, but really to modernize it, make it more efficient, increase collaboration across the city. So happy to obviously answer any questions as we move along here. I've got my colleague Tom Crosby with us, who you can see virtually. Tom, maybe real quick, just introduce yourself while I pull this up. That'd be great.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tom Crosby. I'm a senior solutions engineer, and I specialize in permitting, licensing, and code enforcement for OpenGov. I've been with the company for a little over 7 years, and I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts, but have done a lot of work in the state of Ohio over the course of those years. Thank you for the time this evening, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Tom. So first things first, we kind of just want to talk about, a little bit about OpenGov, our presence obviously here in Central Ohio, and how it pertains particularly to what's happening here at the city of Sunbury. So Dana did share with me the City Council Strategic Planning Consensus document, as well as some of the other things that actually brought us to the table. And obviously, whether it be because of Intel, Honda happening to the west, Central Ohio, really for the past decade, and especially the past 5 years, has been experiencing extreme population growth across, obviously not just Franklin County or Delaware County here, but you know, in the entire circle that encompasses the city of Columbus, Ohio. We've seen that, and we've certainly helped a lot of communities, in this area, you know, in this general area, help and manage, their internal processes to help them with that group and take things on. Some of the things that stood out to me in terms of how we can align with the city and help you guys accomplish some of the goals that we've laid out in strategic, consensus document here is, you know, the determination is made that additional staff and other resources may be needed to effectively manage the rapid rate of growth. And the city is not growing too fast, but in fact, if you harden the process, you know, bring on more staff, up level the city from that standpoint, you can, you know, handle that growth. The revenue cost analysis, for example, you guys are obviously proud of your low tax structure, bringing other sources of revenue to the city. Obviously, in the Department of Planning, the revenue that comes with the permit applications and making sure that all that is accounted for is a way to keep the tax structure in place, and just one form of bringing other revenue sources to the state. The economic development and tax base diversification. There's going to be zoning changes, as it seems, that's going to encourage more business development. Our software, you know, obviously has the ability to handle that as well. From a city staffing standpoint, I mean, local government, it's no doubt about it. I mean, even the most staffed local governments are understaffed, and there's a lot of turnover that happens in this industry. So strengthening digital infrastructure not only just helps with that process and managing people coming and going, but there are goals here to hire HR professionals and grants writers. I think Dana mentioned that Dan Rowley down in Hilliard, Ohio believes that they're able to save at least a half of a full-time employment salary because of the efficiency gains they have with the software. So bringing efficiencies to the planning department might allow them to really go and make those hires for HR and in the grants that are, you know, some goals of yours. And then last but not least, transparency and communications. One thing we're going to show you in the software is not only will you instantaneously have the data at your hands that you need, whether it be, you know, through payment, code enforcement violations, permit application, the actual permit application processing time, but there's also a goal to provide more effective and dissemination of public data, not only to yourselves, but to the residents that I noticed. One of the things that differentiates our solution and our partnership is our actual platform, our software sits on top of a reporting and transparency platform that we'll show you here, that will not only allow you guys to have the staff providing the data that you want, but if you want to communicate that out to the public in modern forms, websites, very simple, easy build, graphs, charts, things of that nature, you can link out to social media and things like that. It's a core part of the platform and something from a communication standpoint that our partners do take a good advantage of. And kind of last but not least, the three things I have here are really the value drivers that I think OpenGov can bring to the city of Sunbury. One, we can help you operate more efficiently. Adapting to change. You guys are obviously going through change right now. The population growth is coming. You're reimagining business process. You still want to maintain that small town feel. How can you effectively take all of this on and adapt to the change while still meeting your goals? And then strengthening public trust with, you know, being able to provide, you know, in the year 2024 the data to the public that you're looking to. And kind of to touch on those things, you know, this is what, you know, when I'm speaking, especially, you know, in Central Ohio. A map that I think tells the story you guys are obviously all familiar with. Delaware County has experienced the most population growth from the last 2010 census to 2020. And this is only obviously continuing. You guys are right in the heart of basically corporate America's investment in Central Ohio and all of the businesses that are coming here and the population growth that's happening as a result of it. So just modernizing your activity for these material efficiency gains within the department. The pass-through payments, Dana, had told me just one of the key goals is how can we ensure that we are collecting that revenue and those payments up front before development activity is actually happening, that all that money can be accounted for. That is very serious revenue that obviously, you know, can help the city. Adapting to change. Your administrative and departmental teams, controlling the actual software process is very, very important if you're making a step like this. It's one of, you know, like I mentioned about reporting, one of the things that really differentiates our solution is the fact that your staff will have full ownership of it. It's built in a way that in what's called the code that allows them to actually make the changes themselves, not have to come to OpenGov to configure and customize the software. And why that's so important is because as you're going through this change and you're, reimagining some business process, there will inevitably be change, whether it's when you move to a software platform or 2 years from now, whether it's something as simple as the way your fee structure is set up for the permits, or if it's actual workflow steps, having the ability for your staff to have full ownership of it and just continually make your process and workflow better for you it is very important. And then last but not least, strengthening public trust. I kind of touched on this and we'll show you here today. So just wanted to quickly touch on this and with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Tom, or if there's any questions here, we're happy to, answer anything as if you'd rather do that.
Let me head it to Tom and then we'll ask questions at the end if that's okay.
Absolutely. And you know what, sorry, Tom, before I did want to touch on this. 7 years ago, we began working in the state of Ohio, and we have now upwards of 30 partnerships across the state. I've highlighted the ones in Central Ohio, your neighbors. And again, why this is important is because the same reason that we're here talking to you. Some of the people that do professional services here at the city, in the case, the engineer, they've got familiarity with our platform. Developers especially, they're able, that are maybe doing projects, out in the village of West Jefferson and in Madison County or to the east of Johnstown. We hear that all the time. Ease of use of they can be out on the job site applying for these permits. They like doing business at the city. It sometimes even incentivizes them to choose those cities to do their business with. And it creates a really good network. And obviously we've learned a lot just about what's happening in Central Ohio. It creates a great network. Just 2-3 months ago, at the city of Hilliard, we held our first ever Ohio user group for at the time we had 27 customers. In the state, 24 attended. And it really is great because it allows each individuals to meet one another, share best practices, even share applications. And we brought new partners on that, they have their own nuance of how they might do things, but generally the zoning application will look the same. They can borrow from neighbor communities, got a really good starting point, and it just makes the deployment go faster. And obviously you've got other people who will be able to have that network with. So I apologize, I wanted to mention that as well. Tom, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. And everybody should now be seeing welcome to the City of Sunbury Permitting and Licensing Portal. Does that look live?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. So as Steve mentioned, this is the OpenGov storefront. There are about 11 examples of this in the greater Columbus area. And what I wanted to point out first and foremost is the search bar. So here I can search for a term like permit, which will return every record type that has that word or string of text anywhere within it. So with a natural language search, applicants are able to quickly find what they're looking for, but they can also start a project, which is a series of questions that the city can ask about a larger, more complex project that might require multiple different applications that may need to be filled out by different external users across a project team. And then finally, they can scroll down to discover online services where they'd be able to see any and all departments that the city were to stand up within OpenGov permitting and licensing. The important thing to understand about this software is that all of the processes and use cases that we see on the screen here are all built using the same set of tools, which essentially boils down to a configurable form editor and a configurable workflow editor using a graphic user interface that anyone in the city can be trained to use. The most important thing being that that individual understands the process which they're trying to deploy. So here today, I'm going to search for the term zoning, and you'll see here that I have several copies from cities across the state of Ohio. I have a copy from Worcester as well as Norton. But today we're going to focus on this example from Hilliard, which I was able to copy over into my demonstration environment today. So clicking on this link, the applicant will receive a record homepage where you can provide any helpful detail about the zoning compliance process. You could link out to any documents that might need to be attached along with the application, or even include detailed drawings, examples of what might need to be attached from a site plan by the applicant. So here, when I apply online, the first thing that's going to happen is all of my account information will auto-populate based on my logged in user account. In most cases, when we bring on a new community in Ohio, you will automatically have users in your database that have already used the software in some of your neighboring municipalities, and they already understand how to use the software. They're comfortable with it, and in many cases, they ask for it. So when I click next, I can now search for an address or parcel, and I'll search for my demo location of 284 Harvard Street. And that will return only addresses and parcels within the city's jurisdiction. When I choose a location, the software will automatically return any detail from the city's master source of address data. You can choose a unit from a dropdown if that's applicable, but you'll be able to see property owner information and any detail on the property that the city has integrated into the software as well. Then on the next screen, there's just one page of application form in this particular application. It's quite a short application in the city of Hilliard. From a dropdown, I can choose occupancy type. Today we'll choose single family with 1, 2, or 3 units. I'll be required to enter in the acreage of the site. From a dropdown, I can choose the number of units, which is going to determine the fee that's going to be charged against this application. And then I can choose the current zoning from a dropdown, the intended use, the type of project will be a new build, and we'll describe the type of project. This is a new multifamily home and a planned unit development. But then Hilliard has a couple of specific questions here. Do you have a park management fee? Yes. That's going to trigger an additional section where we have to provide the total acreage of the subdivision, which we'll say is 75,000 for argument's sake. These are examples of conditional logic. This is how we can set up the form for the city to require any information from the applicant based on the nature of their project. So in other words, they're not seeing anything that they don't need to see. They're only getting the details that are required in order to complete their application. On the final step of any application, we can capture any and all attachments that would be required for review in order to kick off the project. In this example, the city is asking for a site plan or a floor drawing. So I'll go ahead and upload that. Everything that you see throughout the presentation is 100% configured for each community that brings OpenGov on board. So I've now uploaded my plan set. I can take a look at what I just uploaded and make sure that I have the correct copy. And this window allows the applicant to filter through different versions that may have been edited and re-uploaded by the city over time. So I'll confirm my submission, really a quick process. And what we'll see from here is the application has now been submitted and the software is asking for a zoning certificate payment, which has been assessed at $200 based on the fee schedule that was pre-configured into the software. Applicants will have the ability to pay with credit card. They can connect a bank account, which is a $225 flat fee, or they can indicate that they want to pay with check or cash. I'll quickly pay with a credit card. There, I'm going to be required to enter in my email, my name, my billing information. And once I've done that, I can go in and enter my credit card. The expiration and the CVC will pay that fee. As soon as that transaction is verified, the applicant will be moved on to the next step, which in this example is planning review as well as a zoning approval. So the workflow is as long or as short as the city needs it to be for any process that's going to be bringing on board. But ultimately, it's entirely configured around the city and your unique business processes for each record type that you bring on board. Flipping over to the internal side of the software, the record that we just submitted has already come into the database as a new record, which we can find here. I'll quickly describe this page, which is everything pertaining to any record that gets submitted into the database. Details is always your application form where internal users can make edits to an application if they have the appropriate level of access. Users will be able to request changes from applicants up here. You'll be able to view all attachments here, see your applicant profile, and also view anything that is known about the location with an integration into the city's GIS. Coming over here, I wanted to show you how easy it is to make adjustments to a workflow. Here, the zoning certificate payment came first, which is what we understand the city wants to do for specifically for zoning certificates. But I could move that anywhere within the workflow to update the default workflow if ever at any point in time a change were required. If a new ordinance was passed and we needed to introduce new approvals or inspections, even new document issuances, the city will have full control over how the workflow is configured, as well as each step of the process, what documents issue out, what inspections are required, and what fees ultimately get assessed and collected via the software. Flipping over here, I wanted to give you a quick view of how this all gets reported out. This could be an example of a council dashboard in our reporting platform. So here we can see various reports that are generated off of data that's collected into the OpenGov permitting and licensing database. Here we can generate visuals around things like permit and license revenues, fees paid, payment methods, fees by suburb. We can see individual permit types by quarter, inspections by type, results by percentage, and so on and so forth. This is an open-ended reporting platform that will allow you to create visualizations based on any data point that you're capturing in the OpenGov permitting and licensing platform, sending over to this platform where you can then explore any of these data sets in an interactive fashion. So here I'm launching a permit and license revenue report where I can see in an interactive fashion all of the different subsets of data that make up the total revenue collected. But I can also change my visualization based on what story I'm trying to tell or who I'm trying to communicate with. And I can also filter through the data over here. The outcome of this is ultimately what we call an OpenGov story, which can be used to publish any number of different interactive reports out to the public on any existing city web real estate, which will allow you to communicate broadly to your constituents any permitting performance across all of your various departments. Scrolling down here, we can also map out the locations of permit applications as well as issued permits across the city. Scrolling further, we can create interactive reports that we publish to those stories as well. And we can also introduce narrative context there for any reports that need additional explanation. If I view this, this is now what it would look like to visualize this story as a web-based report, which your constituents can explore at their leisure. And with that, I would love to open it up to any questions from the council.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Steve. I'll turn to fellow council members. Do you have any questions on the presentation?
I do. How much?
Absolutely. Tom, you wouldn't mind, letting me share my screen back again?
Sure thing.
So, there we go. Okay, so, essentially I have two proposals here, we have for the city that I've discussed with, that obviously with Dana presented to Dana here. So as you can kind of see, just took a little bit of liberty here with the actual start dates, but this would be to bring all, obviously, planning and zoning department in, code enforcement, as well as engineering, public works right away. So essentially all the permit applications that are here at the city of Sunbury. So for over 12 months, you have, the first 12 months you have essentially two costs: the annual cost of the software plus our professional services. Professional services, everything from configuration, training, getting obviously, all end users training, not only from an administrative standpoint, but to be out in the field and using the software in that regard as well. So as you can see, you've got 25,000 for the annual cost and just under 30,000 for professional services. There is also just an optional professional services increase for $3,000. Part of the beauty of the software is when we actually teach you to build the applications, our standard delivery is about 3 to 4 for a couple of reasons. One, we want to build 3 or 4 with your team so that obviously they're learning how to do it. But then the beauty of it is that the staff that become super users of the software, that they can build out all the additional ones on their own, or we can copy from neighboring communities to bring down costs. So That optional increase would just be for essentially a fourth, application or permit to be added on top of the three that's in the current statement of work. So this would be, obviously, as you can see here, pricing based on completed or signed agreement on or before February 29th, with all the discounts that are obviously listed here. And then through conversations, if there's a chance for procurement wrap in the current month, got additional discounting, also additional discounting. The services are going to change, but from an annual cost of the software, starting at 22,000. And the other thing that we can do as well, if this would be an option, we could prorate to your current fiscal year. So knowing that the city's on January 1st fiscal year, if you were to start January 1, we could prorate the software for 11 months instead of 12, which would obviously bring down the cost of this current fiscal year. We can be creative, but that's the cost. So I'm certainly happy to elaborate. One of the things that you'll see, Dan's been very transparent with me and the other companies that the city is considering. Our professional services costs, you probably might chuckle, they'll be higher than probably the other two that you've seen. One of the things at OpenGov, and I'm sure you probably heard this from Hilliard and you probably hear from others, that we feel it's as important to really manage the change management aspect of this. So getting your staff trained, going through a true proper deployment where you have a partnership, and then you have a continued partnership after with things like a customer success manager, and obviously our best-in-class customer support, all US based. That all goes into our professional services costs. We don't cut corners there. It's most important for us as a business to get our customers healthy and adapt to technology, especially in year one. So the investment there is large. I think you'll see that when you see other. I don't know what the other proposals are, but in that regard, but that's our process.
Ongoing support, we're paying for it up front. Does that include service over the 3-year contract? I mean, if we need help.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the city's gonna have a dedicated project team, and when they go live with the software, you'll then be transitioned to a customer success manager. We have 2 individuals here in the state of Ohio that work with all of permitting and licensing partners at 30. So you'll be assigned to one of them. So you're going to have a continuous, like a true point of contact with that person. And then we have a true ticketed customer support center. One of the things I should mention is at OpenGov, we're not just a full permitting solution. We have 5 different technology suites that we offer, and our support is set up in such too, so that the staff will call in and submit a ticket or online about this permitting license solution. They'll be routed directly to that group. Our customer support center is also actually staffed with over 200 years of former OpenGov customers. We hire a lot of former customers to work in our support center. Again, we just obviously feel the government wants and having individuals that have successfully used the software help those get through things as well.
Steve, I have first, I just want to say, anytime a company, a city, whatever grows, these types of tools are necessary. The days of being able to manage with an Excel spreadsheet, emails, Word documents and things like that, it's impossible. And I think without a tool like this, it really sets staff up for failure to overlook something. It sets developers at a disadvantage, especially if they're working with other cities that have something like this already implemented. So I do appreciate this type of software. A couple questions though. So as far as the workflow, is it a starts today or do you load all the old information in and so you can go back and do history, or is it from this point going forward as far as what the tool can do?
So we can technically do both. The city today doesn't have a true digital system of record to transfer all of that historical data into. So what you're seeing here and the cost reflected would be
A day forward.
The software.
Gotcha. Okay. And then in the implementation and the workflow, I'm assuming the team sits down and makes sure that there's a sequential workflow, making sure that one talks to the other. So And the only reason I ask, I've been involved in projects where we work on this piece and work on this piece, and then when we get ready to implement, lo and behold, these two things don't talk to each other. So is it done sequentially to make sure that A talks to B, talks to C, and ends up in the right bucket?
Yep, absolutely. So
Okay.
that's exactly how we approach what we call a record type build out. Record type is the application permit, I should start for that we do in conjunction with the staff, with the city's project team. So obviously Alex will be very heavily involved in that, and whoever the other members are. But you know, we do that, and then the other thing too is obviously we didn't have time to touch on this truly, but the collaborative nature of this, the administrative user has the highest level of access control internally. There's obviously other individuals, whether it's the engineer, maybe it's data and finance, that needs to see reports. They'll have access, they'll have access to actually when they're part of the workflow step occurs. So they'll be automatically notified not only in the system, but also via email as well. They can go and complete their step in the workflow. As soon as they complete it, it's then routed to the next person in the workflow. And that's all configured during that initial phase.
And I also appreciate the fact you talk about change management support, because that's such a huge part. I think it's the most often forgot part of a project implementation. It's like, oh, we've got to start using it, and people scratch their head wondering what they're supposed to do with it. So that's a big piece on the back end. So I'm glad to hear you emphasize that. And the only other question I have is, a lot of sensitive information, a lot of, whether it's money, whether it's information, data, whatever. This is in the cloud. What's the security measures on something like this, as far as like a data breach or insurance against that, those types of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure simply because they're the two largest cloud providers and also the two that work with the most government agencies in the United States. We thankfully never had a data breach. Literally just in November, this is going to be very technical. I'm happy to provide more information, but we just achieved SOC 2 compliance as a company.
That's big.
Yeah, so we've, from a security standpoint, it's obviously, one of the things about our company, we've only been in existence for 12 years. We've been a growing company, but we are very fortuitous time. We came to the market as literally the cloud was being invented. So we've been a native cloud company from the start. That's what's allowed us to innovate and grow, and at the level that we have and responsibly, but also from a security standpoint to reach such high measures in a relatively short amount of time for our industry.
Who was your auditor, or who did the attestation for your SOC 2?
I'm not totally sure, but I will certainly get that information for you. Tom, I don't know if are you still on, Tom?
Sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
Do you know who the auditor was for SOC 2 compliance?
I don't. I could look really quickly and get back to you if you give me 2 minutes.
All right, sounds good. And either way, I'll let you have it.
Thank you.
Nope, you go ahead. You breathe first.
With sensitive information, and you say all of our constituents can get on this and look and search wherever they want to and whatever they want to. Is there stuff that they shouldn't have access to and that would be blocked?
So you will have full control of what you want to make available to the public. It's very simple with toggle on features. All of those reports, you can choose to make those available to the public or not. But but you're going to be in full control of that. The other thing I should also mention too is you own your data. We don't own your data. We simply host it. If you were to ever make the agreement with OpenGov, we would return all your data to you. That would be obviously we return it to you flat line.
Looks like a nice tool, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think
So
it was like this though. I mean, that's sorry. Go ahead. Did you have an answer to the question?
I do. So the audit was completed December of 2022, and the audit was conducted by a company by the name of Align. I tried to put their website in the chat, but I don't see the option to chat. But we can send that along following this meeting.
Thank you. I think of an application like this, like information security. I mean, the things that are going to be confidential are going to be like payment information and things like that. I mean, all the information that we're getting submitted from developers or to engineers or to other public agencies. I mean, this is public record anyways. I mean, I can't think that we're talking about confidential information. If there's a data leak, okay, somebody saw a zoning permit, which is public record already.
And essentially get the nail around that.
But for example, there may be internal reporting that, you know, we're not going to just make available to the public if it was requested, sure. But I mean, it may be like a workflow tool for Dana or Dan or Daryl, Alex, you know, just tracking zoning permits or whatever. How many pools did we install last year? You know, stuff like that, that the public could have access to, but it's not necessarily proprietary.
Yeah.
One thing that we didn't have a chance to get into, I could show you quickly if you were interested, but on the public portal, the city has full control over choosing what, if any, information pertaining to any record types is made publicly available for search. So here in the search bar, I can come up here, I can search for a location and expose any addresses that have records associated with them. Or if I have a record number, I can search on that record number. And the way that that's configured is in the administrative settings. If I come in here to my public portal, you can get down to the individual data point within each application that you offer online to allow what is visible versus what is not to the public based on a public search, or you can just turn it all off altogether.
What services did you not price for us that are available?
So in terms of permitting and licensing, this will allow the city to use this system, you know, across the entire city. Are you mentioning the other?
Like beyond zoning and permitting?
Yeah, so at OpenGov, so the OpenGov Cloud consists of our budgeting and planning solution. We have enterprise asset management. That's, I know you guys are looking at, it's a little bit different than what you guys are looking at. That would be essentially workflow management tool, all of your cost appreciation of city assets, basically anything, you know, above ground, underground facilities, roadways, et cetera. We have an e-procurement solution. And then last but not least is our core financial accounting software. So it's another reason a lot of communities like to go with us. You know, one of the things that we've done differently than a lot of the what they call enterprise resource planning, you know, software companies is we reverse built our ERP. The accounting software is the lifeblood of any ERP system. We came to the market 12 years ago. There was a lot of obviously big players, the Tylers, the, you know, Edmunds, Cassell's, you know, Civica here in Ohio is pretty popular, SSI is another popular company. So we build individual kind of best in breed solutions that fill those gaps, because a lot of companies, they get, you know, whoever they choose to go with their financial accounting ERP or excuse me, governance, you know, maybe the permitting department doesn't have a true best in breed solution built for permitting. They just get the one-off module the finance department is chosen. So we reverse built it for these to all be standalone best in breed by themselves, and obviously integrated together. We have, you know, customers that do that, but also we have plenty of customers that just you know, they add things one by one. I mean, I know, you know, not to be all salesy here, but in the council strategic plan, revenue and cost analysis was something that I saw is that, you know, you really need to look at how you're running scenario planning and make strategic decisions. Our budgeting and planning tool is something that does that. Actually, my introduction to a lot of this here in Central Ohio with what, you know, the impact of intelligence with the city of New Ulm, Ohio. They use us for our budgeting and planning solution. Obviously very impactful than anybody about the changes in growth that are happening.
Thank you.
And that would be extra?
Yeah, that would be, yes, in addition to what's here, but.
I'm sure they have a State Farm discount.
Let's hope.
Steve from
Just one more comment, if I can. This really seems great tool, but it really seems that it would benefit not only us, but internally.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Since I've been here at the city, we've experienced a lot of growth, and I've noticed that there's not a very good method to track and just make sure we have all the payments that we have, and there's no process in place. We have certain processes, but they're very lackluster. We use Excel spreadsheets a lot, saving files on the F drive. It has a lot to be desired. There has been a lot of information lost or not found, or takes weeks to find, just due to how we've handled things. So we're getting better. We need a tool. We need something like this in order to grow effectively and efficiently. With all the growth that we have and are going to be experiencing, we need to have a streamlined approach, and collecting the money on one part of it is one piece of the puzzle. Communications and data, content version control. That's the word I'm looking for. Version control has been very difficult with our current system. Communications with the engineers and status updates, and just between the developer and the city and the engineer, 3 different parties trying to work together, we really need a place to combine all of that information, consolidate it. So a tool like this I see will be extremely beneficial, and will benefit us in the future. Really saving, maybe a full-time employee, or at least half of an FTE, like they said in Hilliard. So I see it as being very beneficial.
Yeah, I ditto that. When we were transitioning from the previous administrator to myself, and he had been in charge of the planning side of the house, and we brought Alex on board. I mean, one of the things I'd asked Alex to do almost immediately was to begin to look for some sort of a tool that would assist us. The version control thing is just completely a challenge for staff to identify what is the last version of, whether it's the development text or it's the site plan or whatever the case might be. So that's simply a programmatic issue. And, this tool will help us do that for sure. And then once we, realized that we had a financial management gap as well, I mean, it just all the more reason why we really need to find some kind of a streamlined tool to help us with that. So this is one option. I think there are a couple more proposals in the packet as well. So I don't think we're looking for a decision this evening. Just wanted to make sure that you at least heard the OpenGov discussion, because we talked about it last time. So
Thank you. I just want to be sensitive to the time we have remaining for the meeting, because I know we have quite a few topics to get through. But any final questions for OpenGov? All right. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming in. Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, I was late.
Me too.
No worries. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. So Daryl, is this you or Miss Steffen? Is this okay? Okay. All right.
So moving along, we do have a couple more zoning software proposals. They're included in your packet, but in the interest of time, if it's okay with council, I'd like to skip over those for the time being, and move down to the asset management proposals. Due to these time constraint that we're in right now, the asset management proposal is something that we need to lock in. And so I will direct you to page 36, 35, 34. Page 34 of your packet. We have 3 different proposals for asset management software, asset management services. And if you recall, in December at the Finance Committee meeting, we did have a packet, some information in your packet, a proposal from HCA Asset Management. And it was requested that I get a couple more quotes for other companies. So I've done that. I've gone and I've gotten quotes for 2 other companies. I've requested from 4, but 2 of them got back to me. The first company that I want to talk about is called Industrial Appraisal Company, and they start their agreement on page 34. Industrial Appraisal Company, there's some information about them. They've been around for a very long time, and lots of good information that I've received from our auditors regarding this company. Lots of good feedback. They do a lot of work in Ohio for school districts and counties and cities. They have an appraisal agreement where they will appraise all of our inventory, our buildings and structures, site improvements, movable equipment, licensed vehicles, infrastructure and land. And their pricing is on page 40. and their pricing came in at $9,840, and that is a fee inclusive of all expenses. They also have an annual service fee of $440. That is optional, and that is to update the annual property inventory and accounting cost record. They also offer an insurance appraisal, and that information is on page 50, an insurance valuation, and this is at a very minimal additional cost of $800 on top of the asset management fee of $9,000. And they also have an annual revaluation and maintenance service of $730 annually, which is not on top of the $440, but inclusive of. So this company, I have put together a little sheet of comparison. HCA, I'm not going to go into all the details of what they had specified in their scope of work, but their base price came up to be about $38,000 when we included the valuation of infrastructure costs. The infrastructure costs are included with Industrial Appraisal Company. And just to give you a little bit of information on the third company that I looked at, Valuation and Asset Services, their agreement starts on page 54. They basically provide the same scope of work, not anything to call out differently from IAC or HCA, and their prices was $22,500, but did not include expenses, which could be up to $4,000. So all in, the pricing, the lowest was Industrial Appraisal Company at $11,370 all in, followed by Valuation and Asset Services at $26,500. And then HCA came in at about $46,000. That's when you include some of their other optional items for the insurance appraisal, which is included in IAC, just for an apples to apples comparison. So I think there's a clear cost leader in these proposals. And just so that I could make sure I'm getting all of my questions answered and that their proposal is exactly what we need to be GAP compliant, I did forward the proposal on to Julian and Grube, our auditors, just so they could take a look at it and let me know if there's anything I need to be wary of or ask additional questions of. And he did say that I need to get some more information on the infrastructure valuation. So I'm still waiting for an answer back from that. My contact at IEC wanted to take a couple days at most to get back with me on that, if there would be an additional fee. But given everything else that they had in their agreement and how it was laid out very detailed, I feel very comfortable with going with them, even if the additional cost for the infrastructure valuation would be, I don't know, even if it were another $9,000, which I can't imagine it would be, we would still be very well choosing a very low cost option there. And the fact that they were recommended by the auditors gives me some confidence too in choosing them.
It always makes me worry a little bit when the gap is that big. So, you know, they're a clear cost leader, but are we sure it's apples to apples?
I agree. And that's exactly why I sent that question over to the auditors. I didn't feel comfortable taking their word for it. I was like, what am I missing here? There has to be something. So depending on what he comes back with in the next couple of days, we'll have an answer there. We do need to have some movement on this. I don't know how comfortable council would feel entering an agreement or verbal agreement based on some contingent information that is still forthcoming. Since
What if we did something like not to exceed 25,000, 26,000 or something? So
I think that would be acceptable.
the first one doesn't work out because of scope. The second one we feel like could and to meet the money requirement.
Yeah, and also the timing is not only an issue for us, for our audit. It's also a timing for the company. They don't necessarily have people just standing by, ready to hop on a plane or a bus to get here in Ohio and do the valuation. So they would need to work that into their schedule and work into our schedule as well as to when we need the asset report in hand.
Right. So from an action perspective, I mean, if the council could get comfortable mean, this would be the type of thing we would add under new and unfinished business, added to the council agenda for later this evening.
Is that number comfortable for you? I mean, if we were able to capture every of the second proposal was 26,500.
26.5.
So I mean, maybe not to exceed 27,000
Yeah.
and go with I think the state guidance is lowest and best.
Yes,
So
I would agree that I would feel comfortable with that. Council does.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that information. Appreciate it. And then I think that just leaves us with the financial update and variance reports, unless we want to circle back to zoning software, but we got about 10 minutes left. So I don't know how you like to proceed with that.
I'll leave that up to council if they want, if you want to go through some of the other zoning proposals, I'm happy to do so.
these are 4-year numbers though, right? The 2023. This is the numbers you're reporting now at the financial summary. These are end of last year numbers.
Yes, 2023. Mhm.
Maybe just a quick recap on how we did.
Sure.
Okay.
As you can see starting on page 54 of your packet, I have a financial update. We have our income tax revenues that came in just about 4.8 million, just under 4.8 million in income tax. The largest contributor was the employer withholding tax, followed by the individual, and the net profit tax following in third place. And I have a little breakdown there. You can see that from 2021 through 2023, that all three of those categories are growing pretty steadily. I will note the net profit tax did jump up quite a bit from last year, by 76.1%, but it's still only about 12% of our collections. I do have some information on the general fund revenues and expenditures. And there's not a whole lot that I need to point out there. Every month during our finance committee meetings, we talk through all of these changes, fluctuations, increases, decreases. So I feel like you're probably all very comfortable with and familiar with the exception of Ms. Dreyer, familiar with how we've performed throughout the year. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Interest income way up.
Yes, interest income is way up, largely due to the interest.
It's great. Please explain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the information. Very much appreciated. So is there any pressing need to go back on the zoning software? Is that something we can?
I'll just briefly talk about these. The first one you have there is called Cloud Permit. And full disclosure, I didn't see any demos on either Cloud Permit or iWork. So I'm not very familiar with how they interact and how they work. Alex did give me these quotes, and he worked with some of the individuals from these companies to provide them. So these are just simple proposals. I know Alex is going to meet with some of their representatives over the next few days to get some more information on how their software works. Sorry. So I don't have a lot of information right now, aside from pricing. Again, there's the apples to apples question. Do we know if we're comparing what we just saw with OpenGov with the things that these software companies can do? I just don't know. But they are there and they are options. So I wanted to provide that to council so that we can see that we have some things to consider if we want to move forward with a planning and zoning software.
So for my own clarification, these two, the Cloud Permit and iWork, do they do the same thing OpenGov does? Are they competitors or they're direct competitors of the
As
same?
far as I can tell, they are.
Okay.
Again, I searched on YouTube to find some demos and wasn't very successful. I know you can go to their website and request a demo, and Alex is getting demos done.
Yeah.
So we'll have some more information within the next couple
It
of
would be
weeks.
one or the other. So you'd either go with OpenGov or you'd go with this one or that
Right.
one. It wouldn't be a
Right.
bolt on from this. Okay. Because again, as David pointed out with the other software, there's a big price difference between the two of Cloud Permit and iWork. One at like 40 and one at 16, I think.
Right.
So,
Right? And some basic information that Alex did provide me between Cloud Permit and iWork. iWork is it's very much build it as you go, and you can kind of create anything you want from the start. And Cloud Permit is more of it's ready to go from the get. Like you can just get it and go with it. So it takes very little formatting and customization, whereas iWork requires more customization, but they're both pretty quickly ready to be used.
When you get the demos, can you get listed of references or other municipalities that are utilizing?
Yep.
Right, thanks.
all right, I think that takes us to the end of the list of things to cover, unless there's anything else that anyone wants to bring up at this moment. All right, well, it is 7:25, so if there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, sir. Do you have a second? Molly, thank you. All right, roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Ms. Strayer,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper. Yes. Mr. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, we are.